Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Farmington Town Board agenda and meeting for November 9th. First thing on the agenda, we have a public hearing, both public hearings. First one is proposed improvements for facilities for the town of Farmington Sewer District. The town clerk read the legal notice.
Please take notice that a public hearing will be held by the town board of the town of Farmington on the 9th day of November 2021 at 7 p.m. Farmington Town Hall, 1000 County Road 8, Farmington, New York, to consider proposed to the town of Farmington Sewer District pursuant to section 202B of the New York State Town Law. The town of Farmington, on behalf of the Farmington Sewer District, owns and operates sewer facilities and become aware of improvements consisting of the redirection of the sewer force main, pump station 1 force main, from its current discharge location in the sewer collection system along Route 96, down along the east side of Beaver Creek Road to a large transmission sewer that will free up capacity in the sewer collection system and also alleviate some sewer overflows in the town, which are improvements beyond the original scope of the project, are now necessary, and that the estimated cost of these additional improvements is $600,000. As a result, the town engineer has prepared a preliminary engineering report dated November 2021, which describes these improvements and shows the estimated cost of all improvements to be $600,000. Any resident of the town of Farmington shall be entitled to be heard upon this matter at such public hearing. Copies of the original plan and the revised plan showing these proposed improvements and the costs are available for review at the town of Farmington Town Hall, 1000 County Road 8, Farmington, New York. This by resolution of the town board of town of Farmington.
Thanks, Michelle. So we do have, after this public hearing, we have the resolutions that are tied to this. So what we're trying to do is allow for grant money. So we've done the engineering this year. The application date is November 22nd. Correct. November 22nd. And then we might hear in the next 12 to 14 months whether we're successful on the grant or not. At this time, I'll have Bill, our town engineer, kind of explain the project a little bit.
Sure. Thanks, Pete. We have a long-standing project. Probably for a couple of years, we've had to do some sewer capacity studies in the town. We have had some sewer overflow issues, both here and in Victor. Victor did complete a large transmission project to alleviate some of the issues there. And 2 projects were identified here in Farmington. These are not current issues, but they are bottlenecks in the collection system that we can foresee in the future as development occurs. One is along Route 96, where this sewer pump station force main located in front of the racetrack basically goes, and it's going to be redirected to a transmission to interceptor sewer that was put in years ago for the purpose of this. So there was definitely some foresight back then. We're going to redirect this force main to that interceptor sewer, alleviate the issue along Route 96. But before we do, we're hoping to get some grant money to do that. So there's a number of resolutions on tonight, including a bond resolution, just to prepare for the grant application. And hopefully we'll find out in 3 or 4 months if we're successful with that. It'll be at least a 25% contribution to the project. So.
Thanks, Bill. So, as Bill mentioned, the estimate is $600,000. We're hoping that it doesn't get much more than that, and then we, out of the sewer district, we contribute 25% for that. At this time, since this is a public hearing, like anybody that would like to speak for or against, we'll take people in the room first. I don't know if we have anybody online. Okay. So we'll take people for or against or want to comment on this particular public hearing, and ask if anybody does want to comment to make sure you leave your name and your address with the town clerk. Anybody at this time want to comment on the public hearing for this proposed sewer district expansion? Anybody online?
I don't see anybody in the chat either.
Okay, thank you. At this time, we're going to close the public hearing for the proposed improvements to the town of Farmington Sewer District. Our next public hearings are for fire contracts on Farmington. We have 3 fire departments that we support: Shortsville, Manchester, and the Farmington Fire Department. And I have the town clerk read the legal notice for that.
Notice hereby given that a public hearing will be held by the town board of Town of Farmington, Ontario County, New York, at Farmington Town Hall, in the Town of Farmington on November 9th, 2021 at 7:01 p.m. for the purpose of determining whether it is in the public interest to enter into contracts with the Farmington Volunteer Fire Association, Shortsville Fire Department, and Manchester Fire Department for the purpose of providing fire protection to the Fire Protection District in the said Town of Farmington upon the following general terms. 1. The Farmington Volunteer Firemen's Association Incorporated shall furnish fire protection for the northwest and southwesterly portions. Shortsville Fire Department and Manchester Fire Department shall furnish protection for the east and southeasterly portions of the Farmington Fire District. 2. The Farmington Volunteer Fire Association shall receive therefore the sum of $570,123 during 2022. Manchester Fire Department shall receive therefore the sum of $63,216 during 2022. 3. Cited contracts of Farmington and Manchester shall be for a 1-year period and shall terminate on December 31st, 2022. 4. Shortsville Fire Department contract will be for 3 years and shall receive the sum of $16,771 during 2022, $17,106 in 2023, and $17,448 in 2024, and shall terminate on December 31st, 2024. This by resolution of the Town Board of the Town of Farmington.
Thanks, Michelle. Again, 3 fire districts. Every year we negotiate with fire departments on the contract. Some, as Michelle mentioned, are 3-year contracts, and some are 1-year contracts. And normally it's around a 2% every year increase, and if the fire department has a specific need, like Farmington Fire Department a couple of years ago, needed all new gear.
Air packs,
Yes, air packs. It's quite expensive, so we gave them more money in that particular year. When we looked at the overall budget and working with my account clerk, our bookkeeper, and got back to the town board, we actually could reduce the tax rate and give them 4% instead of 2%. So that's what the numbers are for 2022, is each of the 3 fire departments got a 4% increase. Anybody at this time like to speak for or against? Anybody like to speak for or against? Anybody online? Staff or town board members?
Nothing else.
Okay, we close that public hearing. Thank you. And we'll have resolutions approving those contracts a little later in the program. This time I'll call the regular meeting to order. If everybody would rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, and Don, would you lead us, please?
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Jeff. Next item on the agenda is privilege of the floor. We do have Patty Hunting at Creek Point flooding as the first privilege of the floor. Is Patty here tonight?
Hi, I'm here.
Art? Oh, I skipped over the approval of minutes. Give me a second. So, motion and second, thanks. Any abstentions, changes? All in favor? Aye. All right, thank you. A lot of people here tonight, so what we do is normally restrict it with large groups, restricted to 3 minutes of comments. We get through everybody in the room and then go back the second time if we need to. And we got to worry about the online people also. So yes, Ms. Lane.
I came tonight because I'd like to formally bring to everyone's attention the increasing difficulties of the drainage behind my house through Creek Point. I know we've had a lot of rain this season, but I've been here 25 years and have not seen flooding like that in my 25 years of living here. not only did I see it once, but I've seen it 3 times to the point where the flooding started to enter the home of my neighbor. I have addressed and attempted to contact the highway department to have the drainage and to someone to come take a look. I've not had any response. A couple of my other neighbors couldn't be here tonight, but it's significant, and I'm concerned that the halfway corner development has pushed more water through that drainage process into that creek and is causing additional flooding. And I feel strongly that we need to have some type of study done to take analysis to see if there's a better solution to preventing flooding, as well as handling the large amount of water in a short period of time. I've had over $1,000 of property damage done to my property, as well as my neighbor's property, because of this flooding and what appears to be a lack of concern from Farmington regarding the drainage.
Okay, and your address for the record?
1421 Creek Point.
Thank you. And who wants to be next? Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I live on Flaxman Drive. I have pictures of the flooding in my backyard, and I'm at 1612, 1614, and 1616 flooded. And there's a drain over behind 1616 places from me. And there's a drain there that apparently gets clogged up. Now, on approximately 2015, they went behind my house finally. I've been there since 1984. They went behind my house and dug up a trench, put new gravel in it and the new tubing. And I told them that's not going to help.
Yeah, may I have your name for the record?
Gail Kaiser, Keyser, and I can bring these up and you can look at them.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we can take a look. I would like to make copies of them tomorrow or something.
You want to bring them up now?
Sure. We can just start right on the end here.
From 2008, 2015, and 2020. You can keep them because I have copies.
Okay. Who's next? This lady right behind this gentleman here.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Kopka, K.A. as in Frank, K.A. I live at 6184 Buckskin Drive. This is only my second year being a homeowner in this place. I used to live in another state, so I'm pretty new all the way around. So in July, when we had that first big rain, we had a sewage back up into our basement. The water was coming up through our utilities tank at such an alarming rate. My fiance and I bailed the 5-gallon buckets for over 2 hours just to keep up. We didn't end up with damage in our basement. Luckily, it was just a very weird freak thing. Our neighbors had all experienced it. Fire department came out, pumping up everybody's basements. It was like a huge deal. So, my next door neighbor, I've lived here 45 years. I've never seen anything like it. I called the water department to follow up to say, hey, I'm new. Can you tell me if this happens? I just want more information. I was told it's kind of a freak thing. Basically, it'll never happen again. There wasn't a lot of follow up. I asked specifically, he had said, quote, it's an act of God. So I had asked specifically, what's the difference between an act of God and for civic engineering to lead to this backup? And, there's obviously, I didn't get a clear answer in that moment. So I kind of left that interaction thinking maybe it won't happen again. Plumber came out to the house, waterproofing basement guy came out, chimney guy came out. We've got all our ducks in a row on our property. And then again, we had another sewage backup in October. Same thing, having to bail out our basement over and over. So at this point, the sewer guys came out while it was happening, dug up all the manholes, had said that there was no blockages on our street. And we were told by the sewage department that the sewage system is basically, there's cracks, it's old, it's getting infiltrated by lots of groundwater and overwhelmed. And this is what this employee told me, that's kind of what is leading to this flooding. I'm not sure how accurate that is, that's what I was told. And so I wanted to come to this meeting to ask, what is the town doing about that? I don't think I need only person that this is happening to is sewer backups. And I also wanted to formally ask, how do I follow up with any progress or repairs that the town is doing? I'm not really sure what the process for that is. I just want to be aware and do my part as a homeowner to, make sure that I can do what I can, but that the town is also being held accountable to do what the town can do to prevent sewage backups into our homes.
Okay, I just want to make clarification. Was the first time, was it water in the basement or sewer?
It was sewer coming up from the drain of our utility sink into our basement from the sewer line into our house. So it wasn't like the foundation flooding, or it wasn't any of our sump pump overflowing or anything like that. It was from the sewer line. Because our neighbors all around us had experienced the same thing, and they were also bailing out sewer water.
And being an older home, I guess I'd have to reach out to Robin in the water and sewer department, but being an older home, they may or may not have at that time had a, what you call a check valve or a backflow preventing valve.
I had asked the town person about it when I had called, and they had said that even if I had a backflow prevention valve, that water would still be coming out the drain or manhole in front of our home. There wasn't a lot of clarification on that. The plumber that came out would have to dig into our basement floor, and it would be, a few grand to install. So I don't know if that's the town's responsibility to pay for that, or if that's my responsibility as a homeowner. I don't know if newer homes all have a backwater prevention valve from their sewer line.
Most do, but Robin, you experience with that?
Most don't. They've done away with backflow prevention on sewer lines. I mean, if it's in your basement, the check valve is in your basement, you can get to it. But being in sewage, with the solids that are in it, the flapper on the check valve, it's plugged. So you need to open it up once in a while and take the plug out. It does work, and it's better than it overflows outside. We don't want it to overflow anywhere, but usually, if it's ours, we run the flusher truck through it. I mean, our guys go out all the time and look in the manhole. When it's flowing fine through a manhole, then there's a problem somewhere.
Between the sewer line and the home? Possibly.
So the plumber that came out looked in that sewer line and said there was no blockage in it after July. So I'm pretty confident that there wasn't any kind of blockage between my home and the city street.
And you gotta remember, in July, you had 7 to 9 inches of rain.
Sure, but it also happened again in October, so that's the part I'm working with about.
We've had a lot of rain.
Yeah, we have near record rainfall in October as well.
And what if we had record rainfall next year also? I guess that's my question. Because we can't really know that it doesn't continue.
Okay, I mean, we do have sewer employees that, the flusher truck, as Robin mentioned, that do get in and flush the systems. Phil Haven is an older subdivision, so we may have to get in there and camera some of that area and double check. At one time, we did have roots in the sewer line that we had to take out too.
It doesn't make me feel good as a homeowner to have excuses of our property being old, and that's kind of our problem. It would be more beneficial for this meeting to be productive and say, you know what, we have a process. Here's the way you can contact the correct individual for this problem that you're having. I don't find that to be very clear. You reach out to individuals for assistance and you don't have any accountability for that individual. You yourself said to me, well, they're an elected official. That doesn't mean anything to me. I need to know the process. So that's why we're here today.
Your situation is water.
I understand. I'm just saying there's a parallel though. The parallel here is accountability and a clear process to get a hold of the correct individual and have that individual respectfully get back to you.
I think I did email you back and told you that the highway superintendent was on site.
Actually, you didn't email me, but that's fine. I'm seconding what she's saying, that her comment is true, that it's very difficult to have some clear process and accountability to the individual.
So every one of our phone systems you can leave a message on the phone, and that goes to our computer system, so we actually see it on our emails. If somebody, you call the highway department, they're not returning a call. Again, it's an elected official. This board can't do anything about it, but you can always call the supervisor's office, because I answer every phone call. I try to return the same day that I get phone calls, or if I get emails, or somebody stops by in my office.
I don't want to take the time of the floor
But
to have this conversation.
You're asking where to go, so I'm just saying,
And
if the water and sewer department doesn't answer your call within a reasonable amount of time, and the highway department doesn't answer your call, I'm here, all right?
But you're not the person that can
each
rectify
individual's
it.
problem. That's on. You ask for connect, how to do it. Who's next? Yes, sir.
Moved into Farmington 2 years back. I've been here since 2019. I came here from Greece on the west side.
Name and address, please.
Joseph J. Lacona, 1446 Emma Lane, in Phillips Landing. Yep. When I moved in November 2019, a month later, Christmas Eve, had to do an emergency sump pump replacement. Christmas Eve. How hard it is to find parts or a store that's open to get that stuff, especially when it's flooding. I know we all talked about the excessive rain and all that. That's 2019. I'm here advocating for some of our neighbors that couldn't make it today. Some of my neighbors are here today. Phillips Landing takes on excessive water and it pools all over the yards. No mention of this flooding was on the home disclosure form. We didn't know about any of this stuff. I go to move into this house and I find out that this house, my house, had flooded several times. No mention of it. Many of the other houses are now having to be bailed out by Serve Pro or Pro Serve, whatever it's called, fire department. Property values at stake here. There's a problem. My family of 5 uses to live 25,000 gallons of water across 4 months. In 3 months, my house has pumped 103,000 gallons. I've had to do several emergency sump pump replacements. I know that some of my neighbors have had to do the same because I've helped them. I now have a sump pump, a battery backup sump pump, a municipal water backup sump pump, and a brand new sump pump sitting on the side, plumbed up and ready to go. So I can exchange it like a NASCAR tire changer, all right? This is serious. I don't sleep at night. I have a pump spiler that lets me know if my sump pump's running too long. I've got numbers here. My sump pump pumped across those 3 months, 30,000 times. 30,000. That's, my house is taking on average, 1,164 gallons of water a day across this time. I can't mow my backyard. My neighbors can't mow their backyard either. It's turning into a swamp. I don't know what to do. I've been told that the neighbors have come to the town hall before and they said, extend your gutters, and I've done that. I've extended them 20 feet, all of them. I've dug French drains. I've dug dry creek beds to try to handle this. This water, these numbers I'm talking about, are after I've done this work. I understand that we've had record waters here, but this does not change the fact 2 years prior to that, when I moved in, we also had this. 2 emergency sump pumps. I've become a temporary expert on sump pumps. I've had to learn about airlock holes and plumbing all this stuff, because it's really expensive not only to deal with the mold in your basement when your basement's flooded, or having to call somebody when the power goes out. When the power goes out, all of our neighbors have to run to the garage, turn on a generator, and connect up their sump pump. If we don't do that, we're all in trouble. I've been told by my neighbors that when they come for help, it's just, kind of, oh, the ground can shift, and there's settling and stuff like that. This is 103,000 gallons is not settling. as a problem. So I'm here to advocate for my neighbors, for myself, for our neighborhood, for Farmington. I came this way because of the good people out here, and because I think that's what's going to happen. I'm hoping that some action occurs here, because this can't live like this. You can't live with the constant threat of every time it rains, your basement's going to flood. You know, when we talk about excessive water, how much water would any of you be comfortable with flowing into your house? How comfortable would you feel going on vacation with your family for a week, knowing that if the power went out at any moment, your house is going to flood? Wife and I purchased this house figuring that this is where we're going to set our roots. This is where we're going to keep our kids. The fact that I'm able to triple, quadruple the amount of water pumped that my family uses, and I got 3 daughters here. All right, we use a lot of water.
Sure.
I pump out 3-4 times more. Something has to be done. You can't be this constant threat of your basement flooding every time it rains.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gentleman in the back, please.
My name is Sean Adams. I live at 1440 Fraser Way, also longtime resident of Phillips Landing. We've been there since approximately 2016. 2006, excuse me. So part of the problem is I contacted the original developer, Cooler. There are a series of ponds on the property, at which they all pour into each other, and hence it then goes into a check valve system, which you guys can lower or raise so that you can take that excess water off of the ponds and stop putting stress to it. The whole thing was basically swampland to begin with when they originally dug it, supposedly. The difficulty that we've had, and we've had the same problems that he's indicating as well over the years, sub pumps backing up, not being able to compete, burning out, floods that actually happened Christmas Eve. We had one, we've had to deal with it as well. The most important thing to understand, there are 3 problems as to why this is occurring. One, they don't return our calls, okay? I've called 3 times to actually ask them just to clean out the manhole drains that go underneath the street so that the water can actually flow from my pond and my property, which is the first one, to the middle pond inside Phillips Landing, to the 2 external ponds on the outside of the community before it gets to the drain. No call. No call. Never been called back, not once. We have nothing but debris inside those areas, fully grown trees, all sorts of shrubs, all sorts of cattails. It's just an absolute mess. The problem is when the water level rises, which they have complete control over, by the way. When I went out and fussed about it 4 years ago, they dropped the levels at the very back, and the entire ponds, all of the levels dropped by about 4 feet. I didn't have any water problem after that. Now, hence, after these last storms, maybe because they don't want that water running somewhere else and taxing the system somewhere else, guess where that water line is? 2 feet above the high water mark that it was 4 years prior. So this is really poor management of what's happening inside this community. It's not an act of God, okay? We've watched water come in. We've watched remnant hurricanes come through and dump 12 inches of water. And we've all done it, we've all made through it, and some of us have had a little leakage. This is something more serious in Phillips Landing. We talk about home values. Farmington right now, Phillips Landing, has some of the higher home values that you have in this community. You're building some that will probably top ours, but right now the average home in there sits at about $325,000. And you're doing nothing. So something needs to get done. We can't even get a call back. It's getting absurd. We're tired of paying your taxes and not seeing anything happen. So it's really time to start making something happen. How about just a phone call back? How about show up on the street when people have an issue? I'm not asking you to pump anything out for me, but I sure as hell am asking you to do what's right. Do what you're supposed to be doing, what we paid you to do, what we hired you to do, what we supposedly voted you in to do. There's enough people here that are tired of seeing their personal property damaged because you guys can't do anything about it. And you can, because I know that you have a little lever down at the back end of ours that will alleviate all the problems that we have in Phillips Landing, but you won't do it. Or you do it, but then you change it back. So I'm tired of the cat and mouse game. There's no one calling us back. And if you're going to be the mayor of the town super and you're going to be responsible for it, you need to know that this is going on. Under your watch, it's happening every single day.
Okay, supervisor, by the way, not mayor.
What?
So I understand and I hear what you're saying. Again,
We gotta have one. We can't
sir,
have, we can't have, we
sir.
can't have multiple.
That's in my house, so bothers you here, bothers me in my house.
I understand, but we were talking to the gentleman that. So I understand, I don't know why in the past you haven't gotten a phone call. Don, this is the first I heard about a gate or flow modification or in those series of ponds. I mean, you had the longest history.
Where that gate is.
It's at the end of the ponds. So what happens is as the last two ponds empty out, they cross over Old Canandaigua Road, and you have some sort of lever that you guys can crank down on or crank up on, allowing that overflow to pour out.
Are you aware where that lever is?
The last time I spoke to somebody on the phone, they said that they would take care of it and the water level dropped by 4 feet. I'll tell you what, if I have to go find it, I will. I'll call the person we spoke to originally.
I would be glad to go out with you and
Okay.
see that out. I am unaware of any valve that, I'll tell you, the only valve that I'm aware of, and it's open full bore all the time, and that's on the outlet of Calm Lake. And that's the only one that I'm aware
In
of.
my backyard.
That's the only one that I'm aware of.
Okay, I'll find out where it is because it is very close. It's within about a quarter of a mile of the actual residence.
Please do. I would like to see it. And that said, if there is a valve there and there is something we can do with it,
Yeah.
We will look into it. We will also talk with our engineers because, as you well know, we have other neighbors that are downstream from you that we have to assess what we're going to do every step of the way as the water flows. To begin with, we can't just open your pond and open up Emma Drive.
Well, if I may, and I don't mean to be rude, but I just want to say this very quick. I appreciate what you're saying, sir. The problem is you put two commercial properties that taxed our water system. The water runs underneath 41 into my pond from the commercial side on the opposite side of the street. What you're basically doing is you're pigeon toeing everything and you're tying everything into these ponds. You have more developments, more houses going in as we speak. Ground is breaking, not probably 500 yards from my house. And it's just getting worse.
Commercial properties do not go into them ponds, not touch them ponds at Phillips Landing. That water goes to the west, crosses the road, just to the east of Wood Drive, and then goes west.
I'm pulling street water off. I'm pulling street water off that pours into my pond. I can take a picture and I'll gladly give it to you. That is that's at the northeastern side of the street. I have a manhole that comes in from the street that actually pours water in, and then I have a manhole that goes underneath Fraser Way to the next set of ponds. So I actually do have drainage that's coming in. It very well may not be crossing the street. You very well may be correct, and I may have misspoken, but it is certainly pouring off of the street, and it's coming in off of 41 in front of everybody's house that's to the left.
And then I said, the streets all have a crown, which is anywhere from 2 to 3%, 50% of the roads go either way, and always have any water that you see coming in from pipes are in fact connected to the stormwater system, gutters under Emma, Fraser, they all work, and that's where them ponds and all that work. Any of that water, I assure you, that is across the street goes west first, and I can show you exactly where it crosses. It comes in right.
I would like to take some of your time because the simple fact of the matter is that you're putting more things on that street. You're changing the way the natural water flows. They're developing little areas to catch this water, and this water is pouring out. The truth is we've never seen as much water as we've seen in the last 4 years, not just this year. And so whatever they're doing, whatever's happening to the landscape out there, you are forcing water, and more water is being taken on by Phillips Landing. His sump pump's going because we're not dropping those pond levels. I mean, all that is clay. So the reason why his sub pump keeps pouring, because he's just dumping it out somewhere and it's just filling up underneath. Because the water has nowhere to go, because no one will clean out the the little manhole areas that needs to move it to the next pond. I mean, it's just water level. It's simple mathematics. If you have the ability to take that water off, which I just don't think you want to move it to the next guy down the road, because he'll probably have problems like this going. He'll probably have some of these yards flooded, but we've never seen it this high.
That is exactly what they're proposing here tonight, is that we go in there, we get that water off.
No, sir, actually, I'm proposing that you make a better plan, because your plan is broken. I mean, if you mean to tell me that the only way that we get water off of my property is to dump it on a neighbor, then I guess COVID meant nothing to any of us, did it? I mean, we're going to look after our neighbor. We're going to take care of our fellow man. That's what we do. I'm not looking to dump anything on someone else. I'm looking to have you manage that position a little bit better, because that's what you're here to do. And that's what I pay taxes for. I'm telling you, in the last 4 years, I've never seen more water. This man doesn't want to go anywhere. And he's obviously a little anxious because he's got so much water in it. Her backyard's flooding. We just want it managed better, sir. That's all we're saying. That's all we're saying. We just want it managed better.
Thank you. I think Don has agreed he will meet with you and
Be great.
walk the property. And that's
I
a
would
good start.
Yeah, that's fine.
And I apologize for bringing this up, but I do have more videos. I'd love to share them with you, get them on the zip drive, anything I can do so you can see what it's like to take on this water.
We can see we try to email the smaller portions of it to us.
I'm gonna tech back and get it to you any way you like.
Yeah.
Maybe even on a shared file.
Anything you like, yeah.
That would be the best.
Sure.
Dan, you can work with him on a shared file.
Yep.
Who's next? Yes, sir.
I was just there while we were talking about the Phillips Landing. I live at 1444 Emma Lane. My name is Michael Edelman. My backyard, usually from the melt of snow to the middle of May to the middle of June, depending on the year, is unknowable. It's sand water. Of course, I live next to this gentleman, and a lot of the water being pumped out of his house fills not just his backyard, but my backyard. You can look across the back 4 yards on our side, and most people can't mow until the end of June, and actually not have it like just like a mud pit, especially if you drive through it, you tear the yard off. And actually, what I want to see more water going to the ponds. There's a drainage system between all the houses, between Phillips Land, Emma Lane, and Fraser. But the gutter sits, it looks like on top of the yard. It doesn't drain any water from our yards to the ponds. And I know we don't want to pull the ponds, but none of the drainage from our yards actually going there because the gutter sits on top of the yard. So I'd ask that the drainage be reassessed. I lived in Farmington. I grew up there. I remember the project when they had to redig the creeks through Farmbrook and dig it down deeper and put down cement to help the water flow. I just asked that could be looked into because clearly our yards were retaining so much water, it's not even all making it to the ponds. And it's like that in the spring. And again, I was able to mow for at least the last 10 months. I know it's been a wet year. At the same time, it's been like that for the last 6 years. I moved in and talking to all of my neighbors within in Phillips Landing for years that this has been an ongoing issue with those houses, particularly if you will in the middle of the horseshoe where all the water gathers to go to the pond.
All right, thank you. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Joseph Thompson, and I live at 1443 on the backyard of this gentleman right here. And this water issue that he's exactly talking about, I dug it up. It's clay. We already know what clay does with water. It doesn't go nowhere. So what we haven't, I've done is done a drainage system. I dug it up, made it work. And guess what? There's still a lot of water. So with even an underwater drainage system in my yard, I still have water. So that means the water isn't going anywhere. It's simple. Couple solutions. You already heard Mr. Adams say something. Purely just making the numbers. They're telling me that the water isn't going anywhere. All we're asking for is help. I put in the hard work myself to avoid some of the issues that my neighbors are having of having to redo your basement. Been there, done it. $3,500. You know what bamboo floor does when it gets wet? Doesn't like to stay together.
Right.
So that's because of water. So I went and did the next step, try to get away from our house. Now it's not going anywhere because it's at the next step. And that's at your mercy. And I understand you have a managed system of making the water go away. We're not saying dump all of it right now, but 25% here, 25% there does something. It shows something.
As I stated to this gentleman, I am unaware of any valves in the pond system. Again, I'd be glad to meet with either one of you. We will look at that and see if there is in fact an outlet that this gentleman has spoke of. I'm unaware of. I've been in the town 30 years. The only one that I'm aware of is over there at the outlet to Tom Lake, and that was open to regulate the water, and that valve on that 20-point pipe had to stay open in order not to flood the basements of the houses. Actually, we've been going in the sliding glass doors in some of the houses at the level of that.
Here's one for you. So we got all these engineers who come to design these lots for houses. Why aren't we talking to them? Why they are not emailed saying, hey, you remember this housing tract that you put over here at this time? This is what we're seeing.
At this point, sir, the supervisor has reached out to the engineers that work with the town. Okay. They are looking into some of the concerns that are being brought up there tonight. Whether it's something that we can fix overnight, I don't know. The fact is, we are talking to the engineers in town, and we want to fix it. If there's anything that we can do, we will fix it. Again, we got to work with our engineers. We have to regulate how quickly we make water move.
They already tried fixing mine, but it didn't work. New pipe, new gravel, new.
Yours is over on Flaxen Drive. I received that call. I went out there. I spoke with your neighbor over there, and I believe it was the very next morning. I was out there with the sewer flush truck. We flushed the line from the main barrel across the road all the way to the backyard. We found a plug in the 12-inch pipe under the road. I mentioned it to the supervisor. He apparently don't remember that specific project, but we did flush it.
It is, but it's insane. Because he told me you were there. I said, I made the call. I didn't get a call back. But he said the guy was out.
Yeah, we went out and we flushed that 12-inch pipe.
But there's that drain behind the one on the other side of him that when it flooded, our lots flooded, we were told we had to go clean that drain up. And I said, no, it's not our duty to clean that drain up.
On the other side of where the drop inlet is?
I'm 1612,
right.
The guy you talked to was at 1614, and behind 1616, the white, there's a bunch of gentlemen that live there. It's behind their house.
Okay, yeah, that gentleman actually did some fill and some landscaping in his backyard that actually filled a little bit of the swale in his backyard.
Yeah.
That should not
right now, where the guy you talked to had the swimming pool. All
right.
down now, that's all full of water.
Yeah, that water, well, the swimming
from the
pool,
rain.
you took the pool out, it's the grade is about that deep. Yeah. But that one, I did see the water in there when I went back there, and you're correct, that drain with that plug under the road, that did have about 15 inches of water in that swale, and it did work its way up a couple of properties up to yours. That said, once we flushed that went down in a matter of, I'd say 5 to 10 minutes, that was gone.
Yeah, but what good was that new pipe, new gravel, new ditch and everything that they put in around 2015?
What they put in 2015 is they went up through them backyards and they put in what's called a weak pipe. They dug a trench up through them yards, so that's some of the water that did not run across the top would infiltrate into the ground and run underground in that, right. So that water that was left there after what flowed away, sometimes the grade is not 100%, so some water will stay if there's a little bit of deviations in the grade. So that is intended for the little bit of deviation water to sink down in and go into that.
Unlike this gentleman here, I have an extra sump pump that I keep right in my basement. I had the police department or the fire company come out and drain it a couple months ago. Well, we had that first one.
I'm part of the fire department.
You were there?
When it rains like this, I chase around pumping these basements.
Now, I mean, there could be, it's been a while since you walked the property, so I mean, there could be a restriction somewhere on the common drainage, right? Until we actually visually look over it.
We're working two different subjects.
Yeah, I'm talking about the gentleman in the back and in the front there, with all the pond systems. Even if there's not the gate valve or whatever, I mean, it could be a restriction.
Well, the key is, and I just want to reiterate, because I would like this to be on the notes. All I'm asking for him to do is go out there. If he actually removed the debris and allowed the water to actually flow, I spoke to Poole, who is the engineer who developed it. He blames you for not cleaning those out. I just want you to know, you know how it all rolls, right?
Oh, yeah.
He blames you because you refuse to clean those lines. When you don't clean those lines, it just backs up. And that it sits underneath that clay and it sits underneath these guys' houses. And I'm letting you know, the system has failed because there's no maintenance to the system. You're not cleaning out those areas so it allows that water to move. So even if there's not a valve, and yes, sir, you're absolutely correct, moving the water so that it can naturally do what Cooler designed it to do would be far better than the beaver dams you got going on right now with all the congestion that's underneath each one of those streets.
Thank you, Dan.
I kind of send inspectors out there to inspect the ponds. That's what we work on.
Please.
If I can just quickly interject, gate or no gate, whatever, it's a problem. You know, like I think we can all agree upon that, right? We're looking at a micro version of it. I'm looking at the macro, which is it's a problem. It doesn't matter if there's a gate or if there's a pond debris. It's a problem. Our houses are taking water and it's not sustainable.
I have stormwater inspectors that can go out and inspect the ponds, and then we can develop a plan that I can give the highway and move forward.
Thank you.
I think I'd like to also have added to the record is we're not looking for reactionary. We're looking for a long-term plan that is preventative. My backyard, they dredged the creek over 7 years ago and have not come back since, even when I brought concerns up. There's got to be some plan in this whole system where there's consistent new fixes, new expansion, but also maintain. Not us calling you with a 911 call saying the culvert's plugged, the water's going over the road into my house.
Thank you. Who else is not spoken? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Julie Warner. I live at 571 Crowley Road.
571 Crowley?
Crowley, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so my main concern with all this water is there's a drainage between my yard and my neighbor's yard, and we have a horseshoe-shaped driveway. It floods so bad that last week or a couple weeks ago, I had to walk knee-deep in water to move my husband's truck. The water goes over the road, and when it's dark, there's no lights on that road. People, I have videos of cars like sliding all over the place. I'm afraid somebody's gonna get into an accident. I mean, our driveway floods so much that like I can't even put my car in my driveway at all. And like I said, the road floods too. A couple of years ago, more than a couple of years ago, probably 5 years ago, we had that issue for the first time, and we've been there for 26 years. And so back then we had the first time with the road flood, and the town came out. They were great. They dug a secondary drainage at the end of our driveway, which we made sure is clear, but that's not helping. It's still, you know, the water's still backing up and flooding our entire driveway. Okay. And like I said, the road too, and I'm really afraid to get into an accident.
We had 571 Crowley's on the record. Check that out, sir.
And it's the drainage between there. When they put it in, it was all nice and clear, and then the problems. Now it's all overgrown with cattails and maybe
cattails are good actually, but
they are.
Yeah, that's on our neighbor's yard. Yeah, we're it's in our neighbor's yard, that drainage that's getting overgrown, but it's still so close to the road. I don't know. I would think it would still be highway department area. I don't know.
They're the ones who put it in.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago.
And it drains across the street.
The one you were speaking of is the last property just before you get to Brown
Right.
Hill Road. On
Yeah.
the east side.
Over the summer, we came home and there were orange cones out.
Yeah,
It rained
I
so
put
much.
that 12-inch drop inlet right there on the corner of your driveway. Ran a new pipe kitty corner over to the pipe that's set there in the field.
Right.
Then we cleaned the field out, and after I did that, I no longer had any issues with the road flooding there. I'll take another look at it and see if that pipe under the road should be flushed again. I got your address on here. I will relook at that.
Thank you.
Like I say, once I put that one drain in there, put the pipe kitty corner across the corner, that one horseshoe of the driveway, dump out there. We've no longer had any issues with it flooding in the road.
Well, they must have had it in July because we came home, we were gone all day, and it was raining that day, and there were cones, highway cones all over the road.
Okay, I will apologize for July because I was out at camp someplace, and some of my guys were taking care of it, so I can't speak to July. But I know this last one I was out and about, I did not have an issue there. But I will look.
I didn't, honestly, I didn't call. It was late at night, I wasn't even home because I couldn't get it in my driveway.
I will look at that pipe again and make sure that's functioning correctly.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes.
Leo Medler, 6184 Buckskin Drive. My fiance Jennifer already spoke. I simply want to know what the protocol is for communicating that there's issues, because I know that in our flooding instances that neighbors have been the most helpful thing there. We let each other know that something's happening. You have all of our information we've bought here. I feel like it would be okay if there was an information, kind of a robocall, like check your basement. This would be great. I've had these sleepless nights, like I've heard other people have. And when we've gotten through, the only thing that we're aware of for communication is that something was posted on a Facebook page. Neither of us have Facebook. And so we have no clue and just have to constantly go down there. What's the protocol for communicating when you know there's an issue, that something's happening, that we're having an event, whether it's an act of God or whatever it is? How do you let us know?
Well, if it's a water main break, we try and post it on Facebook, on our town webpage. People that sign up for the webpage can get an email blast. Also.
It is on the webpage too?
Pardon?
It is on the webpage. It does go there.
When there's a water main break.
Okay.
So it would, I mean, sometimes I don't get a call the next morning. It happened at 11 o'clock at night, but we try to post it on as fast in what general area it might affect the town. Sometimes I see Facebook comments of low water pressure, and I immediately call Robin or his number 2 guy and go, hey, we have a water main break. And no, nobody's reported it yet. And so sometimes we reach out to the city of Canandaigua where we buy our water and say, hey, do you see excessive use? Yes. Then we got to send guys out and actually look for the leak because we don't know where it is, and we have an expansive area. But a lot of times, either the highway department is out early in the mornings or late at night, or the state police and the troopers will call 911 and get a hold of our water department for a water break. If it's a basement backing up, to be honest with you, I haven't got calls until a couple weeks ago. I mean, we just don't know about it, And in most cases, we probably don't have a quick fix. It's, they don't have a spare, double sump pumps or something. Call a firm like AP Plumbing or the fire department. The fire department pump. I don't know how many basements this last time with the, we got 5 inches of rain, and it's mostly in the older subdivisions.
We don't man the phones 24 hours a day.
Yeah, we don't.
So it says right on the recording that if it's an emergency, call 911. And 911 has my direct number because they called me many, many times. Call them and they'll contact myself for and
if he happens to sleep through, they call number 2 or number 3, and I'm down there in the list somewhere if they don't get hold anyway. So, yeah. Who over the back? Yes.
Hi, hey everyone. My name is Dave Jablonski. I live at 1714 Marion Way in the Auburn Meadows, new development. Yes. I don't think there's any secret that there's massive flooding and drainage issues there. Peter, I know you came to one of my neighbor's house a couple weeks back when, because she told me it was Jennifer Newman. Yes. Yeah, nice people. When we had that massive flood, I believe it was a couple weeks ago. I have a lot of similar experiences than the guy in the front row. I believe his name is Joseph. I get an incomprehensible amount of water in my crock. And it's been since I moved into the neighborhood 3 years ago. It's a new development, new house. And I don't know how close it is because I don't know Farmington that well to these neighborhoods.
Yeah, quite a ways away. Yeah.
But I'm speaking for a lot of my neighbors tonight. They have a lot of flooding in the yards, water in the basement, whether it's raining or not. Me personally, when it rains, even a little amount, Niagara Falls in my crock. It's going off every 15 to 30 seconds for a couple days. And then slowly it dies off. Not a normal amount of water at all. When it rains hard, it runs continuously for maybe a day or two, continuously. That's an awful, awful feeling. If the power goes out, you're screwed. I have a backup that's set a little higher than my primary. Sometimes that kicks on in addition to my primary, and that runs continuously. So it's water power. So if the power goes out, that's running, but that only has so much power behind it. So if the power goes out, I'm screwed, and I'm paying for a pool in water with my backup. My basement has flooded multiple times since I've been in there. Nothing too major because the pump has not failed, but if it does, I'm talking dangerous amount of levels in my basement. I have PTSD from it. I mean, I can't sleep when there's rain. I get anxiety when there's rain. It's just not normal. It's not a way to live. I have alarms on it. I have a camera on it. So when I'm not home, I can peek in and see when it's raining, what's going on. I don't have the numbers that Joseph has, but I can tell you I'll be back with those numbers because I got to imagine they're in the same ballpark. And it's all over the neighborhood, all over the neighborhood. I know you guys have heard about it. I've had plumbers out there, 2 of them, that told me, you know, when I have the system in place, it just gets overwhelmed. I have a state-of-the-art system in place, and I do what I can. And I don't know, and a lot of them believe it's issues with the drainage in the yard. I don't know if it's the way the land is graded or the water table or whatnot. That's beyond me. But I can tell you that it's not a normal amount of water to be coming in to my basement. Not even completely. I'm a new homeowner, and I can tell you that. They believe it's a problem with the piping in the yard or the plumbing. Maybe it's collapsed, they told me. And short of emptying my pocketbook more than I have, I'm well over $1,000 in repairs. I've had 2 sump pumps replaced. I got a backup now, and I know how to do it myself in case I need to do it in the future. Short of emptying my pocketbook to diagnose the issue and then fix the issue, because I believe it was an issue to begin with. How would I go about getting that addressed? And has that been brought to your attention in the Auburn Meadows neighborhood today? I mean, it's had to have been brought to your attention.
There was a couple instances where there was a spring discovered on some of the houses that are closer to Town Line Road at that time. And I think they just addressed it by, having a second sump pump or whatever. And just for everybody, talking about communications, when the news, it was a town board night, and I was here when they called after hours. I picked up the phone. It's about 4:45. They said, we got the fire department coming. This has happened before. Please send somebody. I said, I'll send somebody. Dan went, and Robin went. I couldn't get hold of Don at the time, but I sent Robin, just make sure it's not a water main break, or a sewer backup. So I mean, we were out there that night for whatever reason, and they I think you follow them on social media, they have had plumbing out there. And they've talked to some of the neighbors about what they think their problem is. And I think you touched base on it, that it's possibly some of the pipes, I call them hose, because they're not really a sturdy pipe, but the drainage hose that come to our drainage system have collapsed.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all part of the Ryan Homes installation. You know?
So would it have to go through them to get it resolved? Because they usually deflect it back to you guys.
Yeah. Again,
and it's a new development. I mean, it's not wear and tear. It's problem with the construction or the engineering or what have you. And I'm not alone. And there's several people in my neighborhood that I have videos. I mean, I can show you later, but I have videos, same thing. It's continuous amount of water coming in, days and weeks after it rains. Not just this year, but last year and the year before that. I've been there for years. So it's a problem that needs to be addressed. I don't think it's just something, I don't think it's a spring. I don't know. Because some people in the neighborhood get water all the time. I'm lucky that I'm not getting it all the time, but I still get it pretty frequently, way more than it's normal. Way more. It's an insane amount of water I get at times.
I remember seeing a couple instances in Auburn Meadows where they discovered that when the sump pump line comes out and goes through their block wall, there was actually concrete stuck in there and it restricted it. And once they cleaned that area, they pumped on it. So I think you probably should have the conversation with a plumber and then Ryan Homes. I understand that, they basically say you've got a year and then after that, they don't want to know anything, but it's worth a conversation with them.
Okay. Is that something that you guys can help diagnose and do? Because I put a lot of money into it already. My next step is having it snaked and have a camera in there. But I already know what they're going to tell me. It's massive. They're going to have to dig up my yard. They're going to have to fix this, fix that. We're talking about thousands and thousands of dollars. That was a problem from the get-go.
Our neighbors have already done it. They put $10,000 to $20,000 worth of work there and it hasn't done anything significant. That's something that my house has pumped 15,000 gallons in one day. Residential sump pumps are not meant to do that, to go off 3,600 times in a day.
I'm not questioning your calculations.
Just to put it into perspective for everyone, that's all.
But I think it needs to be addressed at this level. And I'll do my due diligence with the developer. They're not going to give me much help at this point. But
we do have 2 construction inspectors on board that visit the construction sites all the time. On your building, Dan has 2-3 guys that look at the structure, but the water lines, the sewer lines coming into the building, in the road, the hydrants, all that, we have 2 inspectors that work for Robin. But they're, they can't be standing over it all the time. They inspect it before a trench gets filled, and then, if it gets filled and they crushed it, they dumped in the material too heavy and crushed the pipe, we're never going to know.
If I could just add one last thing, because I know I'm exhausted. I've been up since 5:30 and I really want to go.
Me too.
But we have a reoccurring thing that keeps happening. Everybody keeps talking about the same thing, and we seem to have a builder that seems to be building like this, because Ryan Homes happens to be my builder as well. Ryan Homes happens to be this builder. If you guys are going to allow these guys to build, what are the engineers doing saying, hey, we're going to take Phillips Landing, one of the oldest subdivisions in this area that they've built, and we're going to kind of use that as a litmus for how they're building the next one and the next one and the next one. I mean, we don't care. I hate to say this about speculation about underwater, streams that have been re-diverted and flowing other ways. I mean, this is their property. It's getting destroyed and it's getting damaged. And if we have people that are really putting in poor drainage, whether it be Pooler originally setting it up or whether it be Ryan Homes as part of it, I really think that that needs to be noted, and I think it's the town's responsibility to put a little more pressure on them. We hate coming in here and beating you guys up. We don't want to do it, but I mean, I understand what they're talking about being frustrated about water. I mean, I can't begin to tell you how much church time I've had to do when I'm pulling up water, you know, in the basement. There's a whole lot of bad words coming out. It sucks to see 1.5 foot of water in your basement. It's happened. It's happened to us. And it's just, you know, once the sub pump gets kicking and we can move the water out, it's completely gone. But we definitely have issue here. And I just hope that everybody understands the importance of really acting on this, because this isn't something that's going to go away. I can tell you right now, none of this is going to go away until you guys do something about it or we find a solution. And I just kind of want to close on that, for me personally.
Thank you. So we do have construction standards manual. We update it almost every year or every other year. So obviously the construction standards, 20 or 30 years, my house is 33 years old. You know, we're a lot different then than they are now. We did have a discussion this morning is maybe we should change the type of drainage pipe going in, whether it's Orion Homes or somebody else, maybe change to a different standard green pipe.
I don't mean to point out the obvious, but Auburn Meadows is connected to where I am, okay? And the water, as you guys get rid of farmland, you develop more and channel the water into smaller areas, it is flowing, it is hitting the neighbors. And, you know, I agree with him. His point is you guys have to reinforce and advocate for those of us who have bought homes from these places and the drainage hasn't been resolved. It's becoming more and more of an issue.
Okay, you back up to Beaver Creek. Okay, that water comes all the way from Bristol through.
I can tell you, as a 25-year resident here, I have seen it increase in volume, the amount of water going through there, as you have developed more and more of the farmland and have less agricultural space where the water is being absorbed. You can roll your eyes at me, I don't care. I'm
just waiting for it to stop, and then I'm going to ask Manager to comment on how we design new subdivisions and the drainage.
All right, my turn.
Yeah.
There's a couple of things that I would say. We're the town engineer. We recognize there's a lot of drainage problems throughout the town. A couple of things for you guys to understand. Farmington is a very flat area, first of all. Probably from the beginning of time, you know, there's been groundwater and drainage issues even before the development. So something to keep in mind, you're going to have wet basements. You're going to have water issues no matter what, really, to some extent. Years ago, well, I should say even today, the state has stormwater regulations that we got to abide by. Every development we review, we reference the state regulations. In years past, 20, 30 years ago, those regulations were much different. So some of the older subdivisions, they were not designed to today's standards. And that's where we are seeing some of the problems. Many of the new developments, the stormwater standards are much more strict today than they ever have been. And we're seeing much more improvement in those areas. And the regulations, calculations, all those things are much more conservative now. One thing to note, though, is the rain events that we're seeing over time have steadily increased as well. 100-year flood 50 years ago is not a 100-year flood of today. So, you know, the events that you're talking about most recently were very, very significant events. So you have to take that into consideration. That's not to say that there aren't certain circumstances, maintenance, for example, certain circumstances that we found that the subdivision was not graded properly or constructed properly. A lot of these things, there are issues out there that can be resolved. But just understand that, you know, many of you that have sump pumps, it's groundwater that you just can't get out of an area that's totally flat. Okay, that's one thing to keep in mind. Some of the stormwater features, though, that do need maintenance, you know, that's something that the town can look at, address, If there's a sluice gate or something that was designed there, it needs to be maintained, that's something to look at. So I think where Pete wanted me to go with this is just for you guys to understand, you know, also we have certain control over the design based on the town regulations, the development standards, based on the state regulations and what the state tells us that we've got to review to. And they're pretty stringent nowadays. If they weren't so stringent back in the 20s and 30s, stormwater was not something that the state really got their hands into too much, or the towns or, you know, the villages and so on and so forth. So it's much better now. And now for some of these older developments, we need to, you know, catch up in some respects. Now, some of the things that we've talked about tonight too, you have to understand. If we're talking about foundation drains, those are your responsibility. The town has a drainage district. It has certain features that are its responsibility as part of the drainage district. And there's a line, you know, in some instances. And it's not always very clear. There's a lot of storm drainage features out there that are not dedicated to the town, where the town doesn't have easements to get to these facilities. And they're either owned by the homeowners in general or a homeowners association or what have you, not necessarily by the town. So we have to look at those on a case-by-case basis to see, okay, first of all, is it the town's facility, that stormwater or drainage facility? Do we have an easement to get to it, and can we do anything? That's something that Don struggles with every day. So I don't know if there's anything more you wanted to do.
Well, and if I can just add one thing, we're not talking, okay, but we're really not talking about water that is stormwater, that is groundwater just seeping in. This man has a sub pump that goes and pumped some 125,000 gallons. This guy's claiming that he has water issues there. We're talking about property damage, guys.
Sir, please,
just pass it on.
You've spoken up.
It's
I need to have, I want to reach one more staff member over here.
Before we move on, I need to address something that this gentleman said, though. It's important that we understand that as potential buyers into this community, this information is not, like, you're admitting that groundwater is an issue and we're going to have wet basements. That's what you're admitting. None of that information is disclosed to a home buyer. So I go into a home not knowing that this information is there, but you're admitting that we essentially bought a lemon and no one told us about it.
To a certain extent, and it's really not the town's responsibility to understand that, but it's unfortunately. I have water in my basement too, my own basement at home. And I bought the house. I knew that there was water in the basement.
I didn't know that there was water in the basement, is my point.
Yeah, I mean, it's something.
So it's not like there's no flood zone, it was not listed as a flood zone, or that this is an issue.
It's not always in a flood zone, no.
So on the follow-up with Bill's comments, Dan with MS4 and Ed was the planning board chairperson. Explain the process on a subdivision and the water run.
I mean, I think the engineer handled a lot of it with how these subdivisions are designed. The runoff from any of this, any subdivision that's planned cannot cause more runoff. It has to cause the same amount or less is what our standards say. So with any of our developments, you see all these ponds being part of the subdivision. Those ponds are supposed to regulate how quickly that water leaves that area before it goes into the creeks and streams, to not impact downstream. Right? So we watch these very closely. Part of this is being the maintenance of it. The town has, and it was asked earlier about, does the town have a plan? Yes, the town has a storm water prevention plan that's been adopted. And we update that yearly. And it gives us procedures of how often these ponds are supposed to be inspected, and how often we do inspection of construction sites and making sure that we don't have runoff going into the streams and causing other issues downstream. With all that being said, the town has actually added more stormwater inspectors. We pair up with the engineering, and they go out with us as well to try to maintain and keep a better eye on it. I'm not disagreeing with any of the comments tonight, and we're all taking multiple notes here about where we need to go and look. There's a lot of these, as Bill said, that there's more than just, hey, we have to go out and look. Do we have the rights to go out and look? Do we, and as a planning board, those are things that we're trying to take care of up front now that used to not be. So that all these easements are in place, so that we can maintain it and do the job of allowing the stormwater to do what the engineers designed it to do.
Right, and again, my name is Ed Heminger, I'm the chairman of the planning board, so all the developments run through my board. I've been doing this for 23 years, and I can tell you that today, the stormwater requirements and review is much better than it was 23 years ago. As a planning board, we're just citizens like you. I mean, we don't have engineering backgrounds necessarily. So we rely on staff and certainly the town engineer, as well as state regulations and the town regulations that are updated. So I can tell you that typically today's subdivisions have better stormwater management than they had before, and that we look at those types of things. Certainly, I mean, the one that comes to mind is when they put in the apartments, the backside of Creek Point there, when they put in those apartments, we talked about the stormwater there for months, I think, to make sure that we had the right solution for that type of thing. So we do the best we can with staff as well as our engineers and try to come up with the best solution possible for new developments. Older developments, that's now you're back to staff for those types of things. So.
And Dan, what happens after the July event and what happened after last weekend's event?
So, just like Don said that he's out with the fire department, usually during these events, I'm out there as well checking on our storm facilities, checking our ponds, checking our inlets, and making sure, and Don has crews out there too that are checking the road inlets to make sure that the stormwater is going where it's supposed to. DEC regulations state that we have to maintain it after 24 hours, that it has to go back to a normal before storm event. So the ponds will influx, hold that water, and then slowly release over 24 hours. And so it's not just during the storm event, but it's 24 hours after. We're going out and checking and making sure things are working the way they should. I also receive a lot of calls. I respond with the fire department, and we'll go in the basements and we'll check sump pumps. And the gentleman in the back corner there, I mean, if you want a sub appointment, we would be more than happy to come out and take a look. Not going to say that we'll have the answers, but maybe we can brainstorm and see what's going on. Each development's a little different. The Phillips Landing stuff, I'm very curious about to see what we can do. That's older subdivision compared to what he's talking about in the corner. So there's some resources here for you guys to use. My office is available Monday through Friday. My email's there. By all means, go on our website, email me. I check emails all the time. I'd be more than happy to come out and take a look. I work closely with Highway on this stuff to try to get some resolutions. So but we're not here just 8 to 4 Monday through Friday. We're here.
So follow up with the actual like sewage backing up and show little solidarity to my neighbors. My stuff also runs constantly. My basement is also very wet. Separate issue. That's in there. Yeah, it's awful. But like the sewer, like we kind of talked about that backwater prevention valve, and I know that we've been in an older subdivision as it's been stated. So is that like is a backwater prevention valve like something that would actually help solve my problem? Is this something that, like looking at, you know, newer subdivisions, etc., you talked about having like a construction kind of code or like rules you have to abide by. In newer construction rules, are those backwater prevention valves a requirement, and are older homes, like, would that help?
Yeah, it will help. I mean, if it's coming in from the street or outside the house, that valve is there, it cannot back up in any farther than that valve.
So like the $3,000 I have to pay for them to drill into my basement before I put this valve in, like that, I'm just like clarifying, like a lot of money's already, like my neighbors have gone into keeping my basement dry. Is this something that, you know, newer homes have to do? And if newer homes don't have to do that, then maybe should they? Also, like then it doesn't seem fair that that's my liability since I'm not in control of the sewer system and how it backs up and creates pressure. I guess I feel like that's a little bit different than the pond flooding, and I'm a little bit,
Yeah.
I just don't understand how to.
If I could just interject, I
Please,
think you
yes.
have an unusual circumstance, so it's probably something to look at.
Yeah, we don't require it on the homes.
Okay.
The reason that they've taken them away, like I said earlier, about funding them. You know, and it's a maintenance issue that you gotta keep up on.
So I think the important thing to note here is in your situation, yes, I think we would agree that it'd probably be beneficial, but it's a maintenance thing. If you don't maintain it, it's going to do you no good.
Like if I don't maintain this valve that I install versus like, okay.
So we've seen issues, especially like newer homes, and I'm going to go away from sewer just for a minute to give you an example. Hot water tanks. Newer technology comes more maintenance, and we're having people have issues with that because it's not something they're used to. Check valves is the same thing. If you're not used to maintaining them, they're not going to do you any good when you need it.
Okay, but you're kind of describing a future scenario if I actually had a prevention.
Well,
valve
no, so
would need to
check
maintain
valves,
it,
they went away from because they were outside and they couldn't get to it. But if
Okay.
you put a check valve in your basement where you can maintain it, then yes, it would probably be beneficial in your situation.
Okay,
But
so
you
then,
also got to remember, you put a check valve in, and it backs up against that check valve. If you run stuff inside your house, it can't get out. So it's going to come up out of your sink and all of that. So there's pros and cons.
okay, so, but again, like, you know, my whole subdivision is also experiencing the sewer backup, which is a little different than the flooding. So is there like any kind of relief there? Is that just a problem we have forever?
Well, I think MRB, aren't you guys doing the flow test?
What was your address again?
Buckskin Drive, 6184. And there were some trucks out, like doing maybe some kind of inner sealing on some lines or something like a few weeks ago.
Jennifer, I'm sorry, I didn't catch your address either.
6184 Buckskin Drive.
6184, thank you. So we, for 5 years, we, on the sewer side, we're trying to get control of the infiltration into the sewer system. And a lot of it we find at manholes. So every year in Victor and Farmington, we spend money and hire a company to reline manholes. I forget how many they did this year, but it's 40 some. So we're trying to inspect 800 a year because we got like 4,500. And then of those 700-800 that we get to inspect, the bad ones come to the top of the list, and that's how we get them relined. So that we were in your neighborhood in Haven, Farmbrook.
I mean, this is
There's actually one on Amber Drive in Auburn Meadows that we had to do.
This is also regulated by the DEC and the EPA. So we have to follow their rules. And they're very tough on it, and that's why we're doing what we're doing. We've actually slowed down the water a lot through the sewer system.
Yeah.
You gotta remember that the sewer system, we average 1.5 to 1.75 million gallons a day that goes through that plant. So we don't want infiltration at all because it costs a lot of money to treat sanitary. And also, the town is responsible for the mains, and we take the lateral to the property where your clean out is at the right of way. That's all we're responsible for. From there in, it's homeowners.
When the mains are creating so much pressure, I guess that's right. Just
Yeah.
stuck at that point, like, but
Like
what
bucketing feces into our sump pump to get it out. That's not what that's designed for either, but it's the only option.
Was your neighbors having the same problem?
The
Across the street,
has the same problem. We
6183.
bail at the exact same time, 6183.
Yeah.
Our neighbor to the left of us is split level, so the basement is a little bit higher. I think the pressure goes right to their house. When the plumber came out, he said that our two houses were at the lowest point in surrounding areas. So that would explain why the water converges there back up into our homes. The one to the right of us had a little bit of flooding, and then I think down the street in like Kitty Corner, there was like, you know, a lot of property damage, like inches in the basement because they didn't catch it or weren't able bodied to bail it out. But yeah, it's happened to us and across the street, like at the same time, in the same event.
Yeah, if you're low compared to the sewer, then that's a problem. And what Robin is saying would be probably all you can do is get it checked out in there to keep that from backing up.
So even though it's a city created problem, I guess, where I really just went home with something like that, this one home.
We're not so sure about that. I probably have to investigate that a little bit.
It's not a city created problem that sewage comes into my house from the sewage.
If they designed your home with a sewer lateral that was not pitched correctly or to the main, then that would not be a sewer problem.
And that would circle back to the developer and following through an older home.
But I mean, I would suggest you look at it.
Yeah, I mean, when we go out and camera lines and flush lines and especially if there's any backup, I mean, I send guys out right away, you know, to go pull manhole covers. You can tell instantly when you pull that manhole cover with the foot because the water's right up to the top. And if you can look down in there and the water's flowing through the manhole, there's no plug. So the only way it'll back up in your house is if it back up in the manhole high enough to push it back into your house.
So we can go out there, check in that area, and we can also, like you said, camera some of the lines, see if there's obstructions.
Yeah, that's a little, you're unique to the rest of it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just felt the need to be like, I want to just really understand this. I'm just trying to also be educated about how this.
No problem. No problem. Yes.
My name is Tanya. I'm at 1507 Emma Lane. I just want to echo what my neighbors have already said. The water in the backyard is not moving. It just sits there. My kid can't play in the backyard for days at a time. Water, I can't accept that your basement's just going to be wet. We moved here, we raised our families here. Wet basements can create mold, which can create health problems. There seems to be a lot of finger pointing, but no real, how are we going to fix this problem moving forward? It's unconscionable and unfathomable that we would need cameras on our sump pumps, that we need 4 sump pumps. My family's already been through 3, but if there's a heavy rain and I don't hear the sump pump go on, we're panicking because what's going on in the basement? We shouldn't have to do that.
Well, good points. I did want to mention, because Joe, I don't know if it was you or somebody else that mentioned they also had a water backup pump.
It can't keep up.
Well, I just want to say be very careful with that because we've had them stick open. And we've had people actually have $700 and $800 water bills with that system because they didn't know that it didn't shut off.
Right, I totally agree, and I've heard of it. $700 800 is a lot cheaper than the $3,000 or the other multi-$1,000s to do the repair. And you know, no disrespect, I appreciate your professionalism and everything, but you know, when we're saying that we're taking on hundreds of thousands of gallons of water, and we're saying that's all well and good, but does it help you to know that we assigned extra staff? It's not a consolation prize. It's a problem. Whether we dug a hole or opened a gate or assigned staff or whatever, we're saying it's an issue we knew about if we approved the designs by Ryan Homes or whomever. You have wet homes, deal with it. You have a limit. Property value will decrease. Mold in the house is a health hazard. It's a problem. We can't just say, does it help you to know that we got some extra staff on board? It doesn't. Because you guys are dealing with the one side of it. I'm sitting in the plastic chair here, and what I do is I panic and I don't sleep at night when it rains. I'm downstairs checking the sump pump. I get up multiple times during the night to walk downstairs to make sure, even though I have a Wi-Fi alarm set that monitors how frequently the sump pump goes off, and it alerts me if it runs for an excess period of time, I'm still checking it. It doesn't help. It doesn't help me to know that there's extra staff, you know? And I appreciate it. I'm not trying to be disrespectful or rude to your professionalism. I get it. I'm just saying look at it from your perspective, from your own home. If it was your own home, and I encourage you to watch the videos to see what we're dealing with. This doesn't address it. It's not the same. It doesn't make anyone sleep better at night.
I don't know if we have a fix to the problem over there, but
so
we'll definitely.
If we don't have a fix, we haven't tried everything, right?
Well,
if we don't have a fix, we haven't tried everything, right?
No, I don't know if there's a fix.
In a swamp, and it's
That is saying.
water that pools there, which is what that neighborhood is. It's a playground within a swamp. The water's naturally cool there. Whether the house needed to have been built in that area, and that's in the developer, and that's well before my time, not gonna pass the buck. I'm just saying. There are times where there are houses built on ground that's gonna naturally cool water, which was Bill's point. If you have ground that has poor drainage in a very flat neighborhood, and it's clay, it's just gonna cool the water against the basement. There's, to his extent, so in some areas, there's nothing you can do. You're gonna have some water in the basement. Obviously, it is an excessive amount. To deal with that neighborhood, we have to look and see, do we have drainage easements that even allow us to go in there and do some work? The town can't go in and do work on private property, it's your property. It's a matter of looking at seeing, are there drainage easements? What can we do?
I know the drainage tile around my house works, and I can tell you that I ran 150 feet of corrugated tube from my sump pump exit to the back, where that gutter is that goes to the pools there, the ponds. I ran it back there. It's not filtering back into the house. I've done my homework. I pumped 150 feet out to that area.
Guess what? One of the things that I heard Bill say earlier, town cannot be responsible for foundation drains and around the house. We have no control of the water that's underground, the water table, where it's going to infiltrate your houses, stuff of this nature. What we can control is the ponds, the pipes, the inlets, the outlets, to keep that surface water flowing in the appropriate direction at the appropriate rates, not to flood the next person downstream. When it comes down to as far as foundation, underground water, there's not anybody at this table or that table can fix underground water. Tonight I've taken the thought process here that several of you are pointing at us as not caring, not trying. I can tell you, rest assured that every one of us in this boardroom have the same concerns as you folks. And as I said to several of you here tonight, I will be glad to go out. I can't tell you I'm going to fix the problem. I'll go out if I've got some ideas. We'll work with you. Anybody at this table, that table will work with you. I guess my point is we sympathize with the thing. We're not miracle workers, but we're doing the best we can, and we're working at trying to fix everybody's issues. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. In my problem, Jackson Drive, and that drain, it gets stuck up all with leaves and twigs and stuff. If there was a cement culvert or something there, would that one have to go through that drain, whatever it is, and get stuck up, and the rest of us would get flooded?
The water, I mean, it still has to work through that that drain. And I know your plight because in that subdivision there are several individuals that like to rake their leaves in the gutter. And myself and my staff, I heard this gentleman say he don't sleep at night when it's raining. I don't sleep at night, and several of my staff are out, and we look like drowned rats because we're out in the roads trying to fix anything drainage problems we can. So it's not like we don't care, and we're trying to shut the jaw. The situation with these, as I've heard other individuals say, that most of these folks, 40 years ago when some of these subdivisions were built, we weren't involved with drainage and stuff like that.
I've been there 37 years.
Another point I heard in here is we should be responsible for watching these developers more. When a developer is working in that development, they're building 5 and 6 houses at a time. We've got 2 or 3 guys. We go around from one to the other. We can inspect it and make sure the pipe is in, stone is in, and we turn our back to go check the stone in the next one, and they throw a big rock like this on one of your foundation drains. It's defeated the whole purpose. We can't have an individual at each house 24 hours or 10 hours a day. We're chasing around, and trust me, The contractors don't like us either, because if we see the little thing wrong, they don't get signatures, they don't get easement, they don't get stuff. They're gonna do it right, or we make them do it over if we could pick up after. Again, there's things we can't see everything. But I guess the final, everybody in this room sympathizes with everything you folks are saying. I've got a whole list. I'm gonna be going by every one of these places. I'm gonna look and see if there's things I can do. I'm gonna check the inlets, the outlets over there on Fraser Way. I'm gonna go check the drain again over there on Trolley Road. You know, Flaxen.
I have pictures up there.
Yeah, I don't need pictures of Flaxen. I was in your backyard. But you know, rest assured, we are trying. We understand it, and we want to fix it too. We want everybody in this town to feel comfortable. I'll be honest. I got a sump pump that runs. My sump pump's running when I'm out with the fire department pumping everybody else's basement.
My son lives in Phelps. He has a camera on my basement. He gets up during the night and looks to see if my sump pump's working.
So just to address what we can tonight, obviously, I think, I know you guys are being reasonable. We can't go out and wave a magic wand and make the water disappear tonight. And we do. We all appreciate what you're going through. I mean, my house, they cap the sump pump because it's on one side, there's gravel. On the other side of the road, my neighbor has two pumps that run 24/7. It's just some of it's a little bit luck of the draw and the land with whether or not you're going to have some water in the basement. So there's nothing we can fix tonight to do that. There are areas where we had not too long ago, we had some neighbors come in and they were complaining about they had a drainage, like a swale into the backyard, and concerned that, you know, development had increased the amount of water running through there. One of the neighbors who was complaining had about a dozen, 10, 12 years worth of grass clippings, a stack of 2x4s, a pile of bricks in the swale holding up all the water. It's like, we can go through and inspect it and we can do everything we can, clean it up as best we can, but if we don't know about some of those issues, when are we going to find out? When we get a significant rain event and all of a sudden it's too late to fix that, the levee's already burst at that point. So what we can fix tonight, not answering calls and not getting a response from town officials is unacceptable. I think everyone up here agrees with that. If you're not getting a response from the water and sewer department or the highway superintendent, if it's a drainage district, I can't even tell you, exactly who's the best one to call in some of those situations, whether it's a drainage, whether it's a water issue or a sewer. They all kind of work together, interconnected. Like Pete said, reach out to the supervisor's office. Pete's good about answering phone calls, emails, voicemails. His secretary's good about making sure we know what's going on. So that is something that we can fix. So please, and our contact information is my email, stuff like that, is on the website. Mike, you can have an email if you need it. That's something that we need to address. If you're not getting a response from the officials, that's unacceptable. That is something we can work on. Like I said, reach out to other people if you're not getting an answer. And the other thing we do, it does help. We are responsible for maintaining a lot of the ponds and the drainage areas and the drainage along the road. I'm not an engineer. I don't know that side of it. But there's a lot more of you than there are of our staff that go out and inspect these drainage areas. So if you do see something that is wrong, if you see that your drainage pond or the swale or one of your outlets or something like that seems to be plugged, again, we appreciate that call. You can get ahead of it. You'll probably notice it faster than our town employees can when they go out and inspect that. Same thing we had a couple of neighbors in Farmington that were nice enough to call and let us know that there were kids dumping rocks and hockey pucks and baseballs and golf balls and God knows what else into a manhole.
Bowling ball.
A bowling ball, yeah, a bowling ball thing, into the manhole cover. So that's the kind of stuff that,
Perhaps you guys
that kind of
could
stuff.
create
Those are
an
things
email
that we
could
can
email
fix.
this to.
I can't hear you. I was trying to talk.
Perhaps you could do an email that allows people to send messages related to that to a specific email address.
On the website.
I mean, if you just, we're working on trying to redo our town website. We contacted one vendor and it was a little bit of kind of a crazy number. So we're going to try and update that. We know it's not the most user friendly, especially from a cell phone. We have issues with it. We're trying to update that as well. It's one of those things we could set up an issue with just like, I mean, if it was general complaints, it'd be an issue of making sure that it went to the right department, but maybe when we update that, you can have a drop down for what is the concern? Is it a drainage? Is it a water main break? Water main break, we usually prefer you call 911 so you get that right away, but direct that to the right department. If you're not exactly sure who to send an email to, I said all the contact information is on there. Supervisor, is it PM or supervisor, Town of Farmington?
There is a contact form right on there, because I know Pete forwarded us one tonight. So.
Yeah, it's there. Like I said, I know the email and the website isn't the easiest thing to navigate. We've been working with some companies to try and get that updated, make it more user friendly.
Yeah, it's under.
Might have been designed in like 1998. It's
under the third tab on the left down, it says supervisor town board, and my email, phone number, it's all right there. Also on the left-hand side at the bottom, you can either sign up for a mailing email blast, if you don't do that often, or you can send a message to the department, and it shows up. Like I get them, this is my county, I represent at the county also. Okay, so this is my county iPad. I got my town and county email on here. So if it comes into this office, I answer it at night. I get 40 emails a day, not including the personal ones. So I try to answer them at all times of the night. Good conversation. Nate spoke, I think, for the whole board here. That, not answering your phone calls is unacceptable. I'll hold Don and Dan to the task of getting out there and looking at the drainage ponds, the drainage, the sewer side of it is Robin. We'll have somebody out there in that area, Bill Haven, and check the sewer there.
And as far as calling in like with us, the secretaries are there during the day. They're usually there until 4:30 in the afternoon. You call in, they make a work order, which is hung on the board for the which the supervisor to look at to delegate who goes where, and I usually see all of them. So.
Thanks, everybody. Great crowd, good turnout. Anybody, Dan, anybody online?
There's been a bunch.
All right.
So we had one that popped online, but want me to add this comment to the minutes here. Chris Smith wanted to echo the statements of fellow neighbors over at Phillips Landing. He has a consistent issue with water drainage. Would like to make the necessary calls to the town. Hopes that the town request does not fall on deaf ears, which I think the board has addressed. He lives at 1442 Fraser Way, and that's the only one that chatted with us. But there is other people online that might want to speak. We've lost most of them now, but we could open it up to see if there's two left that might want to speak.
Anybody there online wants to unmute and speak to the group here?
Now, also, Josh just share his link to the Google with everybody that was online. No, so sorry. Sorry, Josh. Sure. So I also have that for the board, and I can share that with you guys later.
Okay. One more public service announcement. There have been break-ins in Victor, Macedon, Farmbrook. So please leave your cars in the garage if you can. Lock them if they're outside. Don't have any valuables visibly apparent to these youngsters that are coming out of Rochester and breaking cars and stealing things.
I took my garage door around in my car.
Yes, yeah, it's a good thing, yep. And then I used to hang the keys in the kitchen. Now the keys are upstairs, in case they break into the house. Nobody wants cars.
garages are open.
We always lock cars.
You know, we got a lot of cars and close the garage.
Yeah.
You know.
All right, thank you very much. We're gonna go on with the rest of our agenda. You're welcome.
We are going to use your now. Thank you.
Thank you guys for allowing us to be conversational. That was really appreciated and I have a lot
Yes, we do. Yeah, we see it. Yes.
I know our.
Like I said, if,
a little bit, because we didn't know that you're maybe 16 months at this point, so. We were seeing that type of season.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you for allowing us to be conversational.
No problem. That's what we do. Okay, we need to move on. Maybe remind everybody we're still on Zoom.
We are
being recorded. Any other public concerns? I don't think so. There's nobody left.
There's nobody left on Zoom.
Great. Thank you. Report sustaining committees, Public Works.
Yeah, Public Works met this morning right here in this room at our usual time. At the water and sewer plant, MRB is still working on the Wagon Road work there design. It looks like we're going to have to use a larger top. The flow meter data logger is being repaired. They're removing the old pump system and installed a new pump in the scump box. They've been winterizing the buildings and stuff on the grounds. They've been working on cleanup and organizing the lab. Wet well cleaning has started and will continue as time will permit them to do more. And they're doing winterizing of the dioxide system and test repair and replacement heaters in the substations. As far as other discussion, we talked about the 332 water main project and delineations of the wetlands. The sewer main replacement on Untitled Road that is coming along well. We're looking at maybe a couple more weeks before that's finished. Water and sewer backup blacktop areas, repairing blacktop areas from all the water main breaks around town. And let's see what they're getting vehicles ready for winter. There's 2 resolutions we can talk about if necessary. And I'll move on to highway and parks. Working their highway is working on troublesome drainage areas. Talk about some of them tonight, obviously. They replaced a section of pipe on Herondine Road. And they're putting out marker stakes for plow guides and hanging the iron on the trucks for getting ready for winter plowing. They did the mowing on 332. And they have 2 pieces of equipment ordered for next year's project. Parks are repairing stone dust erosion on trails, putting sanders on plows, marker stakes out and about around the buildings and sidewalks, winterizing park buildings, field preparation for weekend games. They also have 2 pieces of equipment ordered for their department. They've been striping the playing fields and mowing and trimming at parks. The buildings, they worked with the phone company on some recent issues at the court and the town hall and the highway, and done some plumbing repair on the court facility, repaired lights in some of the buildings, and repaired the door at the Grange, and I believe that's it. 4 resolutions are for the new vehicles that are ordered. That's it.
Thank you. Town operations.
Town operations met this morning, 5 resolutions. About the comprehensive plan update. We had the public hearing in person and virtually September 28th. Tonight we have a resolution accepting the draft addition, and then the next step is scheduling the second of 3 required public hearings for this one. So the resolution tonight will be to schedule that public hearing for November 23rd. It's got to go to county planning and some other agencies and have their stamp of approval. Again, as a draft plan at this point, but that's the next step to move it along. Auburn Meadows continues work there and still doing some sidewalks and building new homes there. Farmington market update. Still working with the applicant. Again, they have a request for incentive zoning, so we're working with them to figure out the details between them and the town as far as what incentives and what they're asking for the zoning. Delaware River Solar, still waiting on the letter of credit on file, and then they can move on to the next step of the pre-construction meeting. And the building department has some updated stats about Jim.
Thank you. Reports of other town officials, supervisor. Last week, we did have a meeting here in this room for our sewer work plan. That included representatives from Farmington, Victor, our engineers, MRB, and Victor's engineers, LaBelle. The decision was made to purchase more flow meters and additional dams to accommodate different size sewer pipes. We discussed automating the rain gauge data at the pump stations. And we decided to start the I-9 meter readings in the February-March timeframe, weather dependent. So we're going to work with like 3 full meters in Victor and 3 full meters in Farmington all the time. Marcy and I are answering calls for the assessor's office as well as the building department, and we're getting to be better at it. Makes it easier for us to look at the addresses and the files. The hard ones we send on Ontario County to government plant. I have reached out to the county and I'll have more information next meeting. But the county has offered to assist us with the reval operation in the absence of an assessor and assessor aide here in the town. Ontario County, many watched the news yesterday or today. Phil Pomeroy has been sworn in as the intern sheriff. He has over 40 years experience. I was just going to say, you have 40 years experience, and you're asking about his qualifications.
I know I did it for 28 years, but
I passed a message on to him from Ron that Cheshire Card 2 said hello. So that was quite a few years ago for communications. I see this as a positive thing, which will rebuild the morale throughout the department. That is a big department. It's investigation, it's road patrol, corrections facility, and the 911 center. So there's a lot of people working in that department. And that's all I had. Highway Parks.
I won't be very brief. I tried to took my 4th time already. From a highway standpoint, the only thing I would add is the boom mower is out working on mowing drainage ditches to help affect proper drainage. Sidewalk markers will be getting guys who put some of that up here for plowing and cleaning sidewalks. All of the equipment is ready to go. Cleans are on, hardware's on. The 19th, crown will be coming in to undercoat it like we normally do every year. At parks level, the striping on the fields, we're done for the year. Last game was there, and boy, did they make a money mess on that field. That's said and done for this year. Mowing, guys were out again today in all the parks. So if you were around, you've seen them mowing in the park, get things cleaned up there. And the Stone Dust Trail over at Pumpkin Brook continues. I hope to have this segment between the back gate and the parking lot completed this week. And if the weather leaves us alone, we're going to start going up and around the back to the upper soccer fields which will create both ADA compliant park as well as a place for residents and folks in the area that just want to go for, want to walk but don't want to be out on the roads and stuff. They can actually park there in the parking lot and do laps around there or whatnot, just the exercise. That's all I got.
Thanks, Don. Town clerk.
Oh, nothing. Keep going.
Water and sewer.
Little update on Glen Road. They are all tied in. And the flow is running down the pipe.
Yeah.
I've got just a little bit of some bench well work to do. They've got to abandon the pipes that are there, fill them and all of that. And they've already started grading, rock hounding, and we'll be over there seeing.
So at what point do we camera that?
We've been doing it as we go.
No. Okay.
So it's been pressure tested, mandrel, and camera.
Nice.
All of it. It's worked out good. Todd Duvall's crew's been keeping ahead with the inverts, and so we got the plug out of the lateral that comes out of 84 lumber, whatever it's called now. And there was just some debris in it. We cleaned it out and connected it all. We actually found a manhole over there for that line that's on the side of the main. We didn't have a clue it was there. It was about
really
14, 15 inches in the ground to cover this. So now we're putting extensions on it and it'll be up so we can get to it.
Nice.
So they're done pumping, the pump is.
The bypass pump?
Check for sure tomorrow. They might have to bypass pump another day or so just to do the invert where the force main dumps into, just to keep the flow down. And we've been between ourselves and Villager sucking water out of the pump station on Hook Road, so it don't pump there. So they can get that done. It's a little more involved in that one. Because the existing invert that's in there, they had to tear some of that out, and they had to build it higher to make an easier curve for that to go instead of the way it used to go straight.
Mm-hmm. All right. So maybe by the end of the week, we won't be bypassing big pumps.
Yeah, it might be as early as tomorrow. They pretty much got everything stacked up and laid there for them to come pick up. So
okay. Good. Thanks. That'll be good news. Building and zoning.
All right, go over the stats real quick. We issued 45 building permits in October, bringing our total to the end of October to 837 building permits, 270 building inspections, bringing our total to 2,623 inspections this past year, 3 fire inspections, 21 MS4 stormwater inspections were completed, and 42 zoning inspections. The only other thing I want to comment about is that we have our ISO inspection next Tuesday. We should be all set for that.
we're supposed to get together with Fletcher also for flow testing for the, I think that's ISO too. For the flows on every so many years, they have to flow the hydrants, and we're both going to go out together. There's not that many to do. So.
Actually, talking with Fletcher after he stole one of your guys.
When is this? Been there, felt that.
I think it's next week. Okay, I got an email for it.
And you're flowing.
Yeah.
So if you could also send us the results, that would be helpful to see how it calibrates the water now.
All right. Board.
Let me start by saying first, thank you to the board for your support for the litigation against the planning board for the solar project. See, Certainly we prevailed, but I know it was a long and costly event. Also to staff, certainly the engineering staff, they helped through that whole process. This was a 2.5 year, 3 year process. And Dan's team, if they hadn't kept us straight on everything we were trying to do and when we were doing it, we wouldn't have been able to prevail as well. But, and lastly, certainly Ron for drafting those very lengthy resolutions that covered all of the different pieces that we needed, and the addressing seeker in detail, we addressed it in, and how many meetings we had. It was almost as entertaining as what this was tonight at all of our meetings. We had so many of them. But I appreciate the support from everyone in that whole process. And I got a feeling we'll have some more, and hopefully we won't have any litigation, but we certainly got that. So.
Yeah, and certainly in the staff, we include John Novotel.
Oh, no, absolutely. I forgot to say that. John's ability to keep everything straight, 270 some odd documents or whatever they were, and keep the abstract straight, it's amazing. He did a great job.
And then the research job he was able to do for our attorneys.
Yeah. Between him and Ron, absolutely.
They were amazed at.
Yeah.
Finding stuff that they were asking about.
Yeah.
Is that what you were going to say?
I was gonna say, because he brought, I was gonna say, don't forget John.
Yeah. I didn't write it all down, so I didn't get it all.
And we can't pay him any more money an hour because he doesn't want it.
There you go. There you go. Just on a side note, the broadband survey, I did that one tonight from the Facebook. I highly encourage you to do that, because get all your constituents to get out there and get that broadband survey done, because the company that's actually doing it for the whole state is a company I used to work with, ECC Technologies, and they're a really good company. And they'll put together all the pieces and hopefully get us some funds from the infrastructure bill to come in and help fill in some of the gaps. So other than that, next meeting, we're going to do the Loomis Road Industrial Park, kick that can down the road a little bit. They're still not quite ready to come in. We have the Palanga preliminary site plan approval. We'll get that out of the way. And Gerstner Medical 2-lot subdivision and the final site plan. That's pretty much it.
Right, folks. And just for your knowledge, we pulled Hathaway's Corners road dedication because they're not quite ready. Hopefully do that 2 weeks from now. Okay. Ron, Director of Planning and Development.
Yeah, the town operations report is been posted on the website today, so I'm not going to go into that. Solar committee is meeting a week from Thursday. The draft has been posted on the website, and we're looking to maybe have 2 meetings and get something to you in December for public hearing in January. And then the comprehensive plan is Nate alluded to. There's going to be ultimately a total of 3 public hearings. We've had one, literally no changes to the document from anybody. The second one you'll be having here at the end of the month to see if people read the document and posted on the website since August. And then the third one will be probably in January for adoption after it comes back from town. That's it.
All right, thanks, Ron. Town engineer.
Yeah, real quick, just Rickyard Road tank is now out to bid, so we encourage contractors to pick up on that. We'll be reaching out to some as well. Manhole rehab is complete. Retention Road water is complete. We also will have the digester cleaning at the wastewater plant out to bid after the next meeting for December. So we'll be looking for contractors there. And then obviously there's some resolutions on the agenda tonight relative to the WEA grant application for the pump station 1 enforcement. So.
All right. Anything?
What he said was good.
Entertaining evening for Corey.
Yeah. So just so the town board knows, Corey and Ryan, was it?
Oh, yeah, Ryan McCullen, yeah.
Yeah, they were out, Auburn Trail, Jasper area, working with taking a lot of shots there. They've got some recommendations. If we can't meet this week, we'll work it into next week and take their recommendations internally before we talk to the neighbors. But I appreciate you guys being out there and taking the shots.
Yeah, and it looks like we did find, where the issue lies with that drainage problem on Jasper. So unfortunately, they weren't here tonight, but we did get one issue, I think, resolved, or at least we know what to do to resolve it, so.
We can also figure out what to do in the very end by the parking lot and the model home.
No, I think that's all with his shots, so we'll
Yeah.
have to discuss that more.
Yeah, and I ran it by Don, so he got some ideas too. So, all right. I don't have to be present for you guys to meet and discuss how to fix it. You never know what my schedule's like. Thanks. No assessor tonight, no recreation, finance committee. The only thing I'll mention is I just checked online and the mortgage tax numbers for the resolution for Ways and Means tomorrow is still not posted, but I do expect it. So by Thursday, we'll know our mortgage tax receipts, which is the second of two payments we get every year. And I look forward to that being a generous number with the way real estate sales have been this summer and early fall. Correspondence is on. Communications is listed on the agenda. Reports and minutes are listed on the agenda. Resolution number 1 is resolution approving the proposed improvements of facilities for the town of Farmington Sewer District, and this is a roll call vote. So moved. Motion second. Any questions? This pertains to the sewer line WIA grant we're going to reach out to. Roll call.
Supervisor Engelsley.
Aye.
Councilman Bowerman.
Aye.
Councilman Herendeen.
Aye.
Councilman Casale.
Aye.
Councilman Holtz.
Aye.
Resolution passed. Number 2 is the bond resolution dated November 9th today from the town board, the town of Farmington, authorizing general obligation serial bonds to finance sewer system capital improvements within the town, authorizing the issuance of bond anticipation notes and contemplation thereof, that the expenditure of sums for such purpose and determining other matters in connection therewith.
Second.
Motion by Mike, second by Nate. Again, that's the maximum of 600,000. And all in favor? Aye. 3 is the New York State Water Infrastructure Improvement Act resolution in support of the authorization for the Clean Water Grant application. So moved. Second. Motion second. This will authorize me to actually sign the grant application procedure. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 4 is a resolution authorizing the town supervisor to sign the Farmington fire contract for 2022.
So moved.
Was anybody
Block
like to
4 by
block?
6. You want to block 3?
4, 5,
4,
and
5,
6.
6. Yeah.
Any objections? Okay, Ron moved it.
Second.
Second by Mike. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. A lot of signatures. 7 is a resolution authorizing acceptance of the monthly report of the supervisor for October.
So moved.
Second. Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
8 is a resolution authorizing Dan to attend the management academy class, making tough conversation easier, online, December 2nd and 9th, cost not to exceed $250. So second. Any comments, questions? All in favor? Aye. 9 is a resolution authorizing the scheduling of a public hearing for Hathaway's Corners Lighting District. Would anybody like to also include number 10, which is scheduling a public hearing for the sidewalk district in Hathaway's Corners?
Sounds good. Second.
Motion is Mike, second by Nate. And these are roll call votes. Hand signatures, yes.
Supervisor Engelsley.
Aye.
Councilman Bowerman.
Aye.
Councilman Herendeen.
Aye.
Councilman Casale.
Aye.
Councilman Holtz.
Aye.
Where the yellow tab is. Okay, 11 is a confirming resolution authorizing the Parks Department to purchase a Bobcat 5600, cost not to exceed $59,000. So, second. Motion second. Again, this is for 2022 budget. Getting everything in order and early. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 12 is a resolution authorizing acceptance of sidewalk and water easements over portions of property located on New Michigan Road, and this is a roll call.
So moved.
Second. This is the multiple Mandrino properties. All in favor?
So roll
Oh, roll call, I'm sorry.
Supervisor Engelsby.
Aye.
Councilman Bowerman.
Aye.
Councilman Herendeen.
Aye.
Councilman Casale.
Aye.
Councilman Holtz.
Aye.
Thank you. 13 is a resolution authorizing a budget amendment transferring money from the ag zoning amendments to the town comprehensive plan amount of $3,000.
So moved.
Second. Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
14 is a resolution authorizing a budget amendment transferring money from contractual in the water department to fuels in the water department amount of $5,000.
So moved. Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 15 is a resolution authorizing the establishment of a letter of credit for Auburn Meadows and Senate zoning project section 8S, total amount of $886,779.37.
So moved.
Second.
And this is the last section, right? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. More retention funds. 16 is a resolution accepting the October 8th draft document entitled 2021 edition of the Town of Farmington Comprehensive Plan, acknowledging the role of the Comprehensive Plan Update Committee, preparing the draft of the Comprehensive Plan, discharging the Comprehensive Plan Update Committee, and scheduling a second of 3 public hearings to be conducted upon the draft document.
So second.
Motion is second. Any other comments, questions? Certainly with COVID, that made it go on a lot longer, but we're getting towards the end. All in favor?
Aye.
17, 18, and 19. Any objections to blocking 17, 18, and 19? Next to buy highway equipment and equipment in the Parks Department. So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. It's for 3 pieces of equipment off the 2022 budget that we to invest in. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. 20 is the abstract 21 of 2021 to pay the bills. General fund, $30,666. Highway fund, $5,244.06. Auburn Trail project, $6,839.52. Beaver Creek Park, $390. Water tank repair, $767.25. Storm drainage, $305.50. Site sewer district, $68,310.24. Water district, $9,563. Payroll deductions, $25.40. Total abstract, $122,048.60. Have a motion? So motion second, any extensions, corrections?
I got to abstain on voucher 2016 and 1974.
2016, 1974.
Yep. Okay, all in favor? Aye. No training under $100. Anything for discussion? I don't think so. We're going to skip executive session and go to the waiver of the rules. Any objection to waiver of the rules? Two resolutions. Hearing none, the first one is a resolution authorizing the acting water and sewer superintendent purchase one new and unused 8-foot by 6-inch Fisher Extreme V snowplow at a cost not to exceed $6,085.
So, sorry.
Motion the second, you did receive 3 quotes. All in favor? Aye. The second one is a resolution authorizing the purchase and installation of a second sliding gate with operator unit for the water and sewer department south entrance to the wastewater treatment plant at a cost not to exceed $20,305. So move. Motion in a second. Okay. Again, we Robin attempted to get more than one group. We did get one quote that includes everything we asked for. The other quote didn't include some of the operating fixtures, but just the fence only. All in favor? Aye. Okay, anything else to be brought before this board before we go into executive session to discuss collective negotiations pursuant to Article 14 of the Civil Service Law? Have a motion? So moved. Second. Okay, it's 18 minutes after 9. And Michelle will let you know when we're done. Should we come up? You don't expect any decisions in after executive session. Okay.